Hey there, beautiful people. Spring is in the air. I mean, everything is blooming. Everywhere I look, I see green sprouts coming up, flowers are blooming. We have these blue jays, they have a nest and they're like taking care of their nest. And it just feels like there's richness and fullness and lushness all around, right? And even though we're like in the midst of this quarantine, this like global quarantine and this global pause, there's this urge, right? This urge to create and to produce and be productive is really potent. And so some of us are tapping into our feminine creativity and we're wanting to create essentially newness in our life, new lives for ourselves, new identities. Some of us are rethinking and restructuring and recreating our businesses and careers and our relationships. And some of us are growing gardens, and some of us are wanting to like write books and new projects and paint the house, and some of us are wanting to make babies. Not me, but just others. Some of you out there are wanting to do that. My name is Maria Chaudhry, and I'm a licensed midwife and an herbalist and owner and creator of Birth Song Botanicals, and we make nourishing herbal remedies for women and children to support all your creative endeavors, from pregnancy to birth to breastfeeding and to raising your children and to promote your fertility. We have something there for you. But I want to talk to you today a little bit about what fertility is and what fertility means to you and where you are in your cycle and in your life stage, and what are you gestating and growing in your life. So I looked up the word fertile and fertility on Google in the dictionary, and it's described as a noun. And fertility has a quality of fertility, and it has a quality of productiveness. And so, for example, you could improve the soil fertility by adding compost to it. Or another way you can use the word fertility is to conceive a young child, to conceive a child or a baby. Or you can also use it in a sentence and say something like, well, anxiety and stress interfere with fertility in men and women. So I was like, okay, that's kind of a little bit not much for me to work with. So what are some synonyms to fertility that I can work with for this video? And so some of the synonyms are pretty cool. So similar words are fecundity, fruitfulness, productiveness, productivity, prolific, generativeness, richness, lusciousness. I like those last three: generativeness, richness, and lusciousness. So when I think of my own like concept of what fertility is, of course I can see it as, oh, okay, fertility, it's producing, conceiving, growing a baby, right? But I really see the word also to encompass our soul and to encompass our spirit, so that we have a fertile soul and a fertile spirit, right? And to have a fertile soul or a fertile spirit means that you give birth to your true self, right? It means you give birth to the person that's underneath all these layers of disguise, right? And so a person that has a fertile soul, they can create and live a life that feels like a life that they want to be living in, right? A life of freedom and self-expression and openness. A life filled with art, and music, and passion. A life filled with gardens and plants, with connectivity, connection with nature, connection with others, right? A life that has filled with curiosity and an open heart and an open mind. A life that is one that's continuously growing and evolving. A life one of spiritual growth and spiritual awakening. That to me is what a fertile soul and a fertile spirit looks like. Okay? So I want to say something here. When I say connected to nature, I kind of want to clarify that a little bit. When I say connected to nature, that almost appears as if we're separate from nature. So like, nature is not just our environment. If I'm going to go outside to connect with nature, and I'm going to look at nature or feel nature or perceive nature, that's me still feeling like I'm separate from nature, right? But the thing is, I am nature. We are nature, right? We are the universe, really. And the universe is this ever-expanding, always generating new possibilities, right? We are that we are ever-expanding and always generating new possibilities, right? I just want that to sink in for a bit, right? So when we're talking about fertility, we often talk about it as in ways to improve our fertility, right? So if you want to improve your fertility, your productiveness, your creativeness, your fruitfulness, your generativeness, you might want to create your fertility in a lot of different ways. I've already given you a list. You might want to grow your garden or tend to your plants or write a book or create a new course, or you might be wanting to whatever it is, get pregnant and have a baby. But in order to do that, you have to co-create and collaborate with the universe to do that, with the fullness of the universe. So today I'm going to share with you four tips to do that. 4 ways to collaborate with the universe so that you can manifest and live a soulful, fruitful, fertile life. Okay? So the first 3 are for general fertility, and then the last one is more specific to a woman that would want to conceive a baby and get pregnant. Okay? Okay. So the first one is called Come Home, right? And so from a Qigong perspective, coming home means that you bring your attention and your awareness to the center of your body, to your physical center, which would be down in your, essentially from a midwifery perspective, we'd say your womb space. From a Qigong perspective, they'd say Dantian, but down into your physical center of gravity. And you would bring your awareness into your spiritual center of gravity in the middle of your head, like near your pineal gland. And then from there, once you come home, once you bring your awareness into these 2 places, you hang out with your life companion, which is your breath. That's a Qigong answer of coming home. When they say come home, you immediately sink into these 2 places and anchor into your breath. So we're all in quarantine right now, right? So in one way, it sounds easy because most of us are at our house. But are we really at home, right? Come home has lots of meanings. One meaning is to literally pause, to slow down, stop running from thing to thing, from thought to thought. When we go from place to place and go from thought to thought, we create clutter. And this clutter clutters up our emotions and our thinking. And when our mind and emotions are cluttered, they're not productive. They're not fertile. They're distracted, right? These incessant thoughts and this incessant need to go, really what it does is it fills the void with distractions. And what happens when you fill the void with distractions, you continuously go from one thought and one idea, but you never really get any traction or get any ground, or you don't ever really follow through. Okay? And so if coming home is also a reminder that if we want to do all these things that we just talked about, growing gardens, writing books, making babies, changing our lives, all of that takes time and space in our lives to manifest. So when you're going from place to place, you never really stop to create the space, the actual space, buffer that you need to plant your seed for it to grow, right? And so if you want to create something in physical reality, you need the space for it. Okay. And sometimes it feels like from a fertility perspective, from like a woman's biological clock perspective, it feels like your biological clock is ticking. I want a baby, I need a baby, I want a... But then you have all these demands on you. You're being pulled from direction to direction, right? You have responsibilities, you have deadlines, you have a job, you have a career, right? And they're constantly being pulled on you. And then you're trying to come home, and there's like this challenge that you're facing. And so a lot of times what we do is we cope with the demands, and we become really good at prioritizing these goals, right? And we're really great at work. We can have our list, we can check it off, we can be really efficient, we can really just accomplish a lot in our careers, in our success. And but that way of thinking, that type of like efficiency, having a goal, crossing it off, being successful, that type of thinking has its merit and has its value. It's really linear, it's really right brain thinking, it's really masculine form of thinking. And it works well when you're trying to like build a house, when you need a structure and a foundation and a plan. Or when you're trying to build a business, you need to not just have a pie in the sky idea, you need to really have a solution to somebody's problem and a way to implement it, right? Masculine way of thinking and goal setting is a way of implementing something that's really profound and helpful. But that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm trying to talk about right here is creation and spiritual growth and pregnancy and gardens and books and spiritual awakening aren't merely things on your list that you can just cross off, right? They are, and you have to approach them from a little different perspective. You have to approach them more from this more circular, spiral perspective. That's a more of a feminine perspective, right? It's filled with passion, it's messy, right? This type of approach to fertility is a process that is not easily fit into a box and not easily fit into somebody else's time frame, right? And so coming home and creating the space helps you create space so within the process you can manifest in your own time and in your own way. Because these pregnancy and creation, these are forces of nature. And these forces of nature, like I said, they have an ebb and a flow to them. And sometimes they pause, and sometimes they surge, and then sometimes they take a really, really, really long time to incubate and gestate, right? And that's a feminine approach to creativity. And so if you're wanting to manifest something in your life, you, especially as women right now, and they're in this stage of wakening up to their consciousness, a lot of women have really tried for a long time to be successful. I definitely am one of them. And to kind of put away a part of myself so that I can show up and fit into this box. And that's what success looks like. And now I'm in a phase where I'm merging them. And that's what fertility is too. This is not an either or conversation. It's not like masculine right brain thinking and structure and analysis is not helpful. It's actually, that becomes the framework, that becomes the structure. Then you merge the feminine aspect to it, and that structure then opens up until we have a whole new space. And then when those two masculine and feminine aspects come together, life is created, manifestation is created. That's how you go from a pie in the sky idea to creating it, to actually following through and producing it and manifesting it into reality. But if you stay in the structure and you're just trying to cross things off your list, You might not really get to the fullness and the passion and the art and the full expression, and to be able to peel away the layers to reveal yourself, because you'll stay always in this mode of success on time. Okay? Okay. So, coming home also refers to coming home to your most healthy self, right? And so when you're going to focus on coming home and your most healthy self possible, you have to think, okay, what is my healthy self? What does that consist of? You have your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, your spiritual health. And you have to tend to all those. So you want to come home to tend to all these aspects of yourself. And if you're wanting to manifest something that you've tried to work on and it hasn't really happened for you, there might be something in this list that I'm about to give you that needs to be tended to and needs to be polished up. So here's some questions you could be asking yourself when you want to come home to yourself, to your body, to your healthiest, most optimal you that you can possibly be, right? So right off the bat, just your physical self. Like, are you moving? Are you exercising? Are you stretching, breathing, creating strength, flexibility, tone? And then other simple things in your habits are like, okay, so what about drinking? What about smoking? Is it time to quit? What about coffee and stimulants? How many cups of coffee do we really need in a day? What about nourishing foods? Does your diet nourish you right now? Will it nourish you when you need the extra energy to physically move all day out in the sun and grow a garden? Or to think and process and create as you're writing a book or creating a class? Or when you're growing a baby, to conceive, to be pregnant, to push out a baby, to breastfeed and raise a child? That is an immense demand on your body. Is what you're eating now, can it support that? If you want that, then you need to eat like you have that. You already need to live like you have that, right? What else? How do you manage stress now? If you think your life is like hard now, put a baby in the mix. You think your life is hard now, try to add writing a whole book, right? I'm just saying, it's just how do you manage your stress now before you add something to it? Do you already have a meditation practice in place? When you evaluate your life, like what area of your life is way off center and what area of your life needs to come back into center, right? And how do you connect? How do you connect with yourself and connect with nature and connect with your partner? Like, those are kind of questions you need to ask yourself if you want to create something, bring something new into the world. So if any of those seem like they're a little out of balance, then come home. Tend to them. Okay, so number 2, the next tip is connect or connection. So it's just like coming home. Connection and connecting is an act of love. It's an act of kindness, okay? So when you're connecting with yourself, sometimes when we're asking ourselves these questions of like, why do I feel so stuck? Why do I feel so stagnant? Why am I working so hard and I'm not getting to where I want to be? I'm doing all the right things that the book says and I still haven't been able to conceive. Why? And then we start to look outside ourselves, right? And so then, okay, I'm going to turn my gaze inward. And then you start to ask yourself all these questions. And so then you're like, okay, on that list, I went through that list, and you might find that the answer is not in your physical body. It's not in your physical diet. But when you look a little deeper, you might find that the answer is in your emotional history or your spiritual history. And then when you go into your emotional history a little deeper, often you find like events or triggers or stressors that are impacting, influencing, blocking you because they're not quite resolved, and they're impeding your ability to conceive or to manifest, right? And so last week I made a video about how to manage really challenging, intense emotions in a shifting landscape. So if you're going through your process and you're like, wow, I really feel like I'm exercising, I'm eating great, I've got it together physically, but I can't figure out what's holding me back. Well, then go deeper in and looking through your emotions and your spirituality, and that video will help you. Okay? And you can find it on the YouTube channel or on the blog. So, the creative process of manifestation, is powerful, and it requires you to be real with yourself, to be real with who you are and what you're wanting, how you're going to go about getting it, right? And it really requires you to trust the process and to get out of your own way. And if you want, like I said again, if you want to bring something new into the world, you want to be clear as to why you want to do that. So you might need to ask yourself some questions. And some of the questions are easy and some of them are a little tougher. So what are the questions? The simple one is why do you really want it? Right? Is right now the right time for it? Is there ever really a right time? What will your life look like if you actually had that right there with you? If you actually were pregnant right now? If you were actually in the midst of publishing a book right now? If you were actually in the midst of trying to harvest a garden right now, what would that look like? Could you? And then what would it look like if what shows up isn't exactly what you wanted? You thought you wanted this, and then this showed up, and you're like, how do you manage that? Because something's going to show up, right? Why are you doing this? Are you doing this because your soul is wanting you to do this? Or are you doing this because your family wants you to do it, your culture wants you to do it, your society wants you to do it? It's what's expected of you, right? So consider some of those questions. And then in terms of pregnancy, specifically pregnancy, if you want to have a baby, ask yourself really, why do you want the baby? Do you think this baby is going to improve your relationship? Somehow you kind of don't have a great relationship right now, and if you have a baby, it'll all get better. If you think that, that's not true, right? I'm just telling you right now, that's not going to fix your problem. If you're wanting to get pregnant and your relationship isn't really working out, and you're not getting pregnant, it might be the problem with your relationship, really. I've seen that over and over and over again. Okay, also consider what kind of parent are you going to be? Are you going to really be able to accept your child for who he is, who she is, even if they're really different than you? Are you going to be able to just love them, accept them, or are you going to pour your dogma on them and suppress them and make them little mini yous? And if they're not mini yous, then they're doing something wrong, and you're going to lock them down, right? What if you have a special needs child? Yeah, are you really open to the fullness of motherhood and the sacrifice of your body and of time and of your career and of what it takes to grow a baby, give birth to a baby, and raise a baby, right? Are you really committed to the fullness? Do you understand what that is, right? So those are some questions to be asking yourself, am I really ready? Do I really want this? Or is this just my hormones, my biology ticking, and I think I want it? I'm not sure. Okay. So that's the aspect of connection. It's connecting with yourself, right? And then there's an aspect of connection, of connecting with your partner. Okay. So when you're in creation with your partner, and really in the universe, you're in co-creation. And so are you including your partner in this creative process? It depends on what you're trying to create, right? If you're trying to create your business or writing a book, maybe your partner doesn't really need to be front and center in there because this is your passion. And really what you really need from them is for them to give you a little space and to support you and to believe in you. And then that's all you need. Or if you're trying to grow a garden with them, you might need them to pick up the heavy bag, right? And move that rock and kind of do the work, right? But especially if you're wanting to make a baby, then you're obviously co-creating, right? And so are you and your partner on the same page? Do you want the same things at the same time? And yeah. And so what happens sometimes, especially when couples are wanting to conceive, and then they don't conceive right away, so they're going to like kind of get down to science about it, and they're going to schedule their relation. They're going to chart everything and have sex on these certain times, on these certain days, in a real regulated way. And I understand that there's some merit to that, of like really being efficient, right? But then what that does is that takes away a lot of the spontaneity and the creativity and the like expression and passion. And those ingredients, spontaneity, creativity, expression, passion, are really essential to love making. To making, like making love. That's another thing right there. You're creating love, right? You're not just having sex, you're making something. And then those ingredients, you kind of really need those ingredients for your relationship as if you do conceive, and then the fullness of motherhood instills, and then you need that sort of spontaneity and security and creative passion to continue, so that you have a beautiful life and family, right? But if you're just like getting it down to science, to the check it off the list, then maybe your partner's not going to ever be able to meet you on the place where you are emotionally, because you just put them in a box and checked them off. There's that. Something to think about. That just came out. Okay, where are we at? There we are. Okay, so before we go to the next two tips, can we go through a meditation real quick? I would like to do this meditation to help bring you home and help you connect. Okay? So I'm going to have a sip of water. So I invite you to clear away everything and get yourself settled. Take a moment. You can be in any posture. You can be standing like myself. You can be seated, sitting on a chair. You can be lying down. It's totally fine. Take a moment to close your eyes. Bring your awareness to your breath. And start to breathe slowly and deeply down into your abdomen. Let's take 3 long, slow, deep breaths down into your abdomen. Feeling your body soften, release any tension, become heavier and more relaxed. Breathing in and out. Now go ahead and place one hand over your heart and one hand on your low belly in your womb space. Breathing in and out, slowly and deeply. Now with your mind, bring your awareness to your hands. Feel the sensations of your hands as you breathe. Now, bring your awareness to the space between your hands and your body. that place of connection where your hands are touching your body. Breathing soft and slow. Now, allow your mind to go into your heart space and into your womb space, to go into your body. As you continue to breathe, soft and slow. And take a moment to observe the sensations in your body. Scan your mind. Scan your emotions. Scan the physical sensations deep inside your body. Now connect and feel your heartbeat. Sense your heartbeat. Connect to and feel your womb space. Sense this portal of creation. Now acknowledge these spaces as spaces in your body that have the capacity to create and the capacity to love. And with gratitude for all that your body does for you, take a moment to listen. We'll ask your body what it needs right now. Listen to what your heart needs, to what your womb needs. You can ask for a message, a symbol, a word, a phrase. Let it come to you. Once you feel like you've seen or heard or perceived the wisdom of your body, the messages from your body, give yourself a smile. For this moment, for this connection. Smile deep inside. smile on the outside. Now, when you're ready, give your body one more acknowledgement of gratitude. And start to slowly open your eyes as you take a nice, deep, cleansing breaths that anchor you back in this room. Bringing your awareness from the inside of your body to the outside of your body. Nice cleansing breath. So, one thing to remember in moments like these that are rich with communication and connection with your body is that your body holds a lot of truth, right? It's just that we have to learn how to understand its language. And in order to do that, just keep coming back. Come home. Again and again. I will ask you, if you're watching and participating and paying attention, if you feel comfortable, put in the chat box what your body needs or what messages you got. I'll share with you mine. Mine was, Maria, take a dose of your own medicine. So I am. Apply what you're teaching for yourself. My body's so wise, and so is yours. Yeah. So, but remember too, you don't just, that's halfway, right? Connecting with your body, asking the question and listening, that's halfway, right? You have to go all the way. You want to make a baby? You want to manifest something? You got to go all the way, baby. You got to go all the way, right? And so you don't just ask your body what it needs and then go about your business. You ask your body what it needs and then you give it what it needs, right? If you give your body what it needs, that's a collaboration, and then your body can give you what it needs. But how can your body just tell you what it needs over and over and over, and you don't listen, and then you get mad at it for not doing what you want it to do, right? So the connecting is halfway. The listening, the follow through is the other half. That's the harder half, right? Okay. So I said I had 4 tips. Let's do tip number 3. And that is know yourself, know your cycle. And if you have not read the book, and I might have it over here, I probably do. If you've not read the book, Taking Charge of Your Fertility, you should read that book. She explains it all super well, how to track your cycles and ovulation and cervical mucus and the whole deal. Next week, we're going to make a video about it. We're going to make a video about how to chart your cycle, right? And hopefully you're not sitting here thinking, well, I only need to know about how to chart my cycle if I'm wanting to conceive and I don't want a baby. But you want to know how to chart your cycle to know how to conceive, but you also want to know how to chart your cycle so that you don't conceive, right? And you want to not conceive, yet you still want to partake in the expanding creative process that your body and that your uterus and that the universe has to offer, right? And so getting in touch with your body isn't just to make a baby. It's really to help you live and to come home into your body and feel really comfortable and kind of have a sense of, lack of a better word, control or ownership of your fertility. And that's what our ancestor foremothers, they didn't have. And that's what makes our generation really different, right? So next week we're going to do a whole video. We're going to talk about some basic questions. We'll probably talk about more than this, but we'll talk about like how long are your cycles, what does your fertile mucus look like, what are the best days to conceive, and what are the best days so that you don't conceive, okay? And like I said, if you don't know this information, you need to know this information, and you need to tell your friends and tell your partners. Your partners don't know that. How would your partner know this information? They won't. That's your job to tell them. So I'll see you next week. We'll talk about that. Don't go yet. We have another thing to talk about. Okay, so the last tip is more specific to women that are trying to conceive, because it's talking about supportive herbs to help improve their chances of conception, to help support their body as they're preparing their uterus to grow a healthy baby. All right. So we already know that to increase fertility means to optimize health on every level, right? And so you've gone through all those steps. And so now you want to increase fertility with some herbal support. So we blended Fertile Ground. Fertile Ground is a tincture. And it's blended with adaptogenic herbs, aphrodisiac herbs, nutritive herbs, uterine tonics, and hormone balancers, right? Fertile Ground is intended, like I said before, to prepare your body to support a healthy pregnancy. If you take Fertile Ground and you get pregnant, woohoo, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. However, the moment you find out you're pregnant, it's time to stop taking the Fertile Ground. Fertile Ground is intended to help support you to get pregnant, but it's not intended while you're pregnant. So once you conceive, your body is wise, it knows what to do, it doesn't need help from Fertile Ground anymore. Okay? Let me give you a couple little tips on how to take it. You would take a dropper with some water under your tongue, or put a little bit in the water and take your dose. You take 20 to 30 drops in the morning, ideally around the same time every day, because you're trying to create healthy balance and you're trying to create healthy habits. And so there is some, like, we're going from tumultuous state to a centered state, so having it about the same time every day is really helpful, ideally in the morning. Okay. You would take it from when you start your cycle, your menstruation, you start your bleeding, you take Fertile Ground all the way until you start ovulating. Hence, you need to know your cycles. When you start ovulating, stop taking Fertile Ground. Make love, do your thing, let your body do its thing, let your body have the space and time it needs. So you're not taking it, you're waiting to see. If you conceived, great. If your period comes back, then it's a signal to start taking your Fertile Ground again. Take your Fertile Ground till you start to ovulate. Pause. Wait and see. Start to take your Fertile Ground again. You understand? Okay. That's what I really wanted to tell you. And so we blended Fertile Ground with all these herbs, and I want to tell you just about each one of them, tiny bit. Okay, so you've heard me talk about some of these herbs before if you've watched our YouTube channel, and if you haven't, you should go to them and watch them. Okay, so the first herb is ashwagandha. And ashwagandha has been extensively studied for lots of reasons, and it's proven scientifically and shown to promote fertility by helping your body cope with stress. It helps your body cope and manage illness, helps your body manage poor nutrition, exhaustion, and hormone imbalances. All of which, stress, poor nutrition, exhaustion, and hormone imbalances, all of which have negative impacts on your ability to conceive. And ashwagandha was also mentioned in the Kama Sutra as one of the principal herbs to enhance sexual stamina and fertility and potency. Right? So, there you go. And then red clover Red clover, it's been valued for its numerous qualities for women's health also for centuries. And red clover is one of the richest sources of these isoflavonoids called phytoestrogens. So isoflavonoids are water-soluble chemicals that act like estrogen. And so red clover is really helpful for fertility and then for a whole host of other things. We've talked about it in relation to hot flashes or flushes, for PMS, and for breast health. And we just showed you red clover in our herb walk, and it's about to bloom pretty soon. So it's pretty cool. It's in our garden. Okay, and then there's vitex. So vitex is also known as chasteberry. All of these are well known. This is another well-known ancient herb, and it's really well known to help with menstrual irregularities. So it can help a woman that has amenorrhea, no menstruation, but then it can also help the woman that has really short, heavy cycles and she's bleeding really frequently, really heavy. So it's helpful for both of those types of women. And vitex is included in all sorts of formulas for miscarriages and for pregnancies and for menstruation because it has a positive influence on progesterone, right? And so vitex is actually one of the herbs that is considered healthy and safe for pregnancy if you're going to try to prevent a miscarriage, because many miscarriages are a result of low progesterone. Even though vitex, and the next herb I'm about to tell you, is safe for pregnancy, that does not mean that you should take fertile ground while you're pregnant, because the other herbs are not intended for pregnancy. So this is a classic time to tell you, consult with an herbalist or your midwife or a doctor before you start taking things, even if they're in women's formulas, especially when you're pregnant, okay? The next one is red raspberry leaf. Red raspberry leaf is super nutritive, rich in vitamins and minerals. It tones your uterus. It feeds your blood. It helps you with blood volume expansion. It helps you improve your circulation. It helps with just assimilation and absorption. It helps your uterus have its contraction and relaxation ability. Also, red raspberry leaf is encouraged for all stages of a woman's life, whether they're young girls to teens to pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, menopause, post, the whole spectrum. And women are encouraged to drink large, copious amounts of red raspberry leaf as often as possible. So it's in fertile ground. We also put it in our women's balance. And there's another herb in there. It's called Damiana. And Damiana is an aphrodisiac herb, and it helps you feel really relaxed. And it's really helpful to those couples that are like trying to schedule everything so they can check it off the list and put them in a box, right? And you're trying to relax and soften and let go and not be so inhibited, and maybe to even stimulate drive, right, or desire. And so Damiana is in there to help enhance or increase your libido. I placed a link for fertile ground in the description of this video. Okay, I mean, whew, wow, that was kind of a productive, fruitful, fertile video we just did. We covered a lot, right? So I hope you feel more comfortable with the concept of coming home, creating space, connecting with yourself, with nature, with your partner. And understanding that all the answers aren't out there, that some of them are inside and some of them are not in your physical body, they're in your emotional and spiritual body. And in order to grow a baby or to be fertile in other ways, it means you have a fertile soul and a fertile spirit, a fertile, growing, evolving character, right? Okay, and so I want you to also remember, take time. This is a process. And processes are forces of nature, and they don't easily fit in boxes, and they're very messy, and they're ups and downs and ebbs and flows, and there's pauses and surges. and then go really slow. And sometimes what shows up is something similar but different than you thought, right? And that's okay. That's what it is. That's to anticipate that. Know that that's part of the process, right? Allow yourself the time and space to ask yourself the tough questions, because you might have think one thing, but then after you go through the process of asking yourself some questions, you might not really want what you thought you wanted. That's another part of the process of creativity and of fertility. Also, I'd like to invite you, if you'd like to learn more about Qigong practices of coming home, then I teach every Friday morning, which is tomorrow morning if you're watching us live. So every Friday morning at 10, it's on Zoom. There's a Zoom link in the description. You can join me there. We'll spend an hour together, and we'll go through the motions, go through the movements of Qigong. And I think tomorrow we're going to spend a little time in this, like with this realm, not so much about fertility, but creating space in our body, right? And, if you like this video, I always got to say it, push like and subscribe and comment and share. And my friends, drink deep and always walk in beauty. I'll see you next time.